Yo, what's going on people? It's your boy Huncho back at you with a throwback case. So if you guys have never seen a throwback case before, it's a series I created where we take an in-depth look at some trials that have happened in the past, normally surrounding UK drill rappers or UK rappers in general. So if there is anyone that you want to see in a future throwback case, let me know down in the comment section below and then we'll take a look at it. So Dutchavelli is a UK rapper out of Hackney, East London. Now, although he does claim London as his hometown, which he represents, as a child he was in fact born in Birmingham before moving to Rotterdam in the Netherlands, hence the name Dutchavelli. He was given this name due to his Dutch accent and of course him being able to speak Dutch, and when he was 11 he moved over to Hackney where of course he now represents. So for you guys that don't know, Dutchavelli has been making music for nearly a decade now, with him bringing a freestyle out as early as 2011 at the age of 17. At some point after this freestyle though, I can't pinpoint an exact date, but it would have been within a year of him putting that freestyle out, he would see himself have a run-in with the police and he was sentenced to 6 years in prison, and he ended up doing 5. Because he was 17 at the time, nothing ever came out in reports because in the UK, a lot of the times if the person is under 18, they're classed as a minor, and so legally you're not allowed to publish that child's name. Of course, there is times when journalists do put names out, but they have to go to court and they have to give the judge a valid reason as to why they want to put the child's name out there. Again, from that sentence he did end up doing 5 years in jail, which would lead us up until 2016, and in August of 2016 footage had started to circulate of him doing a freestyle, and ironically the description of the video reads, "Dutch rapper, hard freestyle, he needs to be recognised," and would just say whoever runs the Grime Alive channel on YouTube in the years to come, he would in fact get the recognition he deserved. A month after this freestyle, on the 18th of September 2016, he would go on to drop New Jack City, which in his own words received a good reception, and so it would be at this point he said he would start to take his music career a bit more seriously. He then followed up on October the 16th 2016 with the song Rumours featuring Clue. Dutch would then go quiet for about 4 months, and a reason for this is that he could have possibly been working on music, because in 2017 he would drop a decent catalogue of music, with some standout songs being Memories, Speedin', Stick featuring Footsie, Feel the Same featuring Chrissy, Let It Breathe, Say Nada, and Three Amigos with OFB rapper RV and Little Torment. Now, if you go back and look at some of the songs from 2017, he was very versatile, dabbling in various beats and sounds. He would kick off 2018 by dropping the song Low with Gypster on the 14th of February 2018, and this would see Dutch hit his first million views, although this song wasn't drill sounding to say the least. He would also go on to release a couple of more songs throughout 2018, which included linking up with Professor Green on Mercedes Rhythm and dropping John Wayne. So just as Dutchavelli was starting to move forward with his music career, 2 months after John Wayne dropped, he would see himself in trouble with the law once again on the 2nd of August 2018 over an incident which had happened a few months prior in March of 2018. At around 3:30 AM on the morning of March the 16th, 2018, police were called to a property in Benover Road in Yalding to reports that 4 men had forced their way into a property and were said to have attacked Tom Fellows before leaving. Paramedics who attended the scene treated Tom for stab wounds, and he was taken to a London hospital to receive further medical attention, where at the time he remained in a serious but stable condition. Detectives from Kent and Essex Serious Crime Decorate had opened an attempted murder inquiry over the incident and were said to have been at the crime scene for more than 12 hours while forensic officers investigated. Because no arrests had been made, the police had put out an appeal for information and described the offenders as black males and in their 30s. It was also said that an unattended silver Mercedes car was later seized by police in the tail race at Toville Green near Maidstone in connection with the investigation. Just under 2 weeks later, police would go on and make an arrest on a 41-year-old male from Ilford, but he was released on bail pending further inquiries. Then the investigation goes quiet until August the 2nd, 2018, where police would go on to arrest and charge 3 men on conspiracy to commit robbery and possession of an imitation firearm with intent to cause fear and causing grievous bodily harm with intent. And the 3 men were at the time 42-year-old Marlon Manning, 41-year-old Jabil Freeman, and none other than 24-year-old Stephen Allen aka Dutchavelli. Manning was also charged charged with possessing ammunition, and Dutchavelli was also charged with conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Marlon and Dutch were both remanded into custody and were to appear at Maidstone Crown Court on the 17th of August 2018, while Jabil was granted bail and was to appear at the same court on the 24th of August 2018. 30-year-old Amy Wallace was also arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender, where she went on to be charged with the offence and was bailed but had to appear at the same court on the 24th of August 2018. So all had pleaded not guilty to the charges brought against them, and so a trial was to go ahead at the start of January 2019, and on trial would be Marlon Manning, Amy Wallace, Dutchavelli, Jabil Freeman, and further people who had been arrested and charged on various charges who pleaded not guilty also were father and son Robert and Cody Powell and Asif Malik. Robert and Cody were arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit robbery. Cody was also charged with having an imitation firearm with intent and causing grievous bodily harm with intent, while Robert and Asif were also charged with encouraging or assisting the commission of an offence. So the trial would go ahead on the 24th of January 2019, and Maidstone Crown Court were told of a backstory which involved bad feelings between the victim's family and Amy Wallace, because Amy Wallace's ex-boyfriend was jailed for burglary at the home of Tom Fellow's sister, which the sum was said to have been around £20,000. Afterwards, there were a number of threatening phone calls made to the victim Tom Fellows by another one of Amy Wallace's exes, that being Marlon Manning, who was currently on trial. In turn, Tom warned that the man responsible for the break-in and anyone who had sided with him would get a quote-unquote hiding, and it was said that Amy Wallace was upping the ante and aggro as more calls kept coming through. Prosecutor Ian Hope said the precise motivation for what happened may not matter that much, as there was more concern about what was done. Tom Fellows, who was a traveller who had worked at the paddocks, usually stayed at his partner's home in Maidstone in the winter months, and on the day of the attack was the first night they had spent there for some time. The prosecution went on to say that is one of the indications that this was a planned venture based on information the family was at home that night. During that night, Mr. Fellows heard a noise and saw movement outside. He picked up a machete, and then the glass in the door exploded inwards. As he went through the hole left in the door, he was confronted by 4 masked men. He swung the machete at a 2-foot long wrench being held by one of the attackers, and the blade broke, adding he was then dragged back into his home and struck and stabbed repeatedly on his back. One of the men produced a handgun and threatened to shoot his wife, who was screaming. He was strangled, stabbed, beaten and cut. There was a request to hand over money. A few £100 kept in the home, and 2 Rolex watches were handed over. Tom was said to have stored money at another address because of situations like this, but nevertheless, the gang had wanted the money off him, and they kept repeating that they wanted the money while they attempted to tie him up. Chloe Smith was punched in the face. She ran from the home and tried to attract the attention of neighbours, but she was pulled back inside. The prosecution added that the home was heavily bloodstained and ransacked. A mattress had been removed from a bed, while clothing from a child's room was thrown across the floor. It was said after this the attackers had left because something had startled them, and then a neighbour heard a Mercedes car speed off at around 3:30 AM. Police who were en route to the scene were confronted by the vehicle driving towards them head-on at 80 miles an hour and momentarily airborne as the gang made their escape. The vehicle was later found abandoned 6 miles away, which we've previously spoken about, and it was in the middle of a road with the keys still in the ignition. The prosecution said the men had left the vehicle, and 2 were later seen by witnesses without shoes or socks, and they were wearing inappropriate clothing for that time of the year because they had disposed of their incriminating clothes. When police officers arrived at the scene though, Chloe was holding a young child and Tom was curled up naked and shivering in pools of blood. He was taken to hospital and treated for multiple stab wounds and was left with a perforated colon. 4 weeks into the trial, on the 21st of February 2019, a retrial had been ordered as evidence was discharged for legal reasons, and the retrial was to go ahead at some point in September later on that year. At that retrial date, it would start off again with the background and the incident being told to the new jury, which we've already gone over, and as the trial hearings went on, the court heard that Marlon and Dutchavelli were said to have tried to get Tom to retract evidence he gave in a witness statement given to police. At a later court date, Chloe Smith had given evidence to the court, and she said she was sleeping on the sofa at the property, but at around 3 AM she was woken up by Tom shouting, "Who's out there?" She said despite him being half naked, he grabbed a machete and went outside to confront the men. She went on to say, "I saw a torch through the window. It was then I realised that someone was there. Then the glass front door was smashed. I got up and ran to the front door, and one of the boys came to me. I heard Tom shouting. There was a tall man that stood in front of me. He was about 6 foot. He had a green parka coat on with the hood up and a black thing covering his face. He said, "Get in." He had a London accent and was holding what I believed was a gun. He pushed my chest, I was pushed backwards, and I went back and sat back down on the sofa. One of my children was asleep, and my other child was very upset. Tom got dragged through the smashed front door by 2 men. He was smothered in blood. I couldn't tell what injuries he had. I don't know how many people ended up inside the caravan, whether it was 4, 5 or 6. One of the men, who was also wearing gloves and a mask and a black hood, asked me for my phone. I said I hadn't got one. He repeated the same question and I showed him where it was in the corner and he took it. He was about 5 foot and 5 inches tall. As you know, it's been said that Tom was forced to stay on the floor while the alleged attackers demanded to know where the money was. She added, they wouldn't let him go, they were just demanding money, and Tom was saying that we didn't have any money. Tom then said there might be some in the bedroom. 2 of them made me show them where the money was in the cupboard. I saw one of the boys take £10. She told the court how she was holding a child in her arms while all this was taking place, and went on to say Tom was hit with an adjustable metal spanner and stabbed several times, adding they were hitting his hands and knees each time he tried to get up. He was stabbed in the head, and one of the boys with the knife was saying, "Tell me where the money is." I was screaming and panicking. Tom's head was pulled back and the knife was put under his chin, and one of the men said, "Just shoot him." Someone had also brought a rope and they tried to tie him up. I kept saying stop it because it was in front of the kids. I thought at one point Tom was going to die, so I said, "Stop, you're frightening the children." I ran out of the front door onto the patio with one of my children in my arms and screamed for help from a neighbour. I then got held from behind. The man put his hand over my mouth to stop me screaming and pulled me back inside. I remember he tried to bite my nose. It was a weird feeling. The events felt like they lasted forever, but it all happened so quick. Then they all just ran off, leaving one of them, the taller one with the coat, behind. Then I remember a voice saying, "Come on, let's go," and he went too. I think they all ran away. At a further court date, it was heard that Dutchavelli had told the jury he had no need to take part in the robbery because his sister was Stefflon Dunn, and because she was famous, if he needed the money, he would have just asked her for it. After this hearing, it was heard that Cody Powell, Dutchavelli and Jabril Freeman were acquitted of all charges brought against them, but Dutchavelli was found guilty of perverting the course of justice and was handed a 22-month prison sentence, but he was to be released immediately due to time already served, and Cody Powell was handed a 16-month jail sentence for admitting possession of a Rambo-style knife in relation to a separate incident. In regards to Robert Powell, Asif Malik and Amy Wallace, they were also acquitted of all charges brought against them, and right now there's no current reports in regards to Marlon, but it does seem as if everyone else had all charges dropped against them. So that would have been at the end of 2019, which meant that Dutch was a free man, and this time when he was released from jail, he exploded into a massive superstar after adopting the UK drill sound and putting his own twist on it with his distinctive voice that has Abra and Pop Smoke influences. Of course, everyone at this point now knows that Dutchavelli is Stefflon Dunn's brother, and in later interviews he goes on to claim that there is of course pros to being related to her. For example, higher-ups would give his music a listen, for example, Big Sean coming out to tweet he fucks with Dutchavelli, but the downsides to him being her brother is the fact that he feels like a lot of people think that he is where he is because of her, but he goes on to say that this isn't the case. In fact, his fresh home song, Only If You Knew, which was dropped on the 19th of January 2020, has gained up to now 17 million views on YouTube, and the rest of 2020 would follow suit when he would release tracks Surely, I Don't Know with Tion Wayne and Stormzy, features on Noisy's song All Them Talk, Black, Burning with M Huncho, and Bando Diaries. In fact, YouTube numbers alone, Dutchavelli has managed to gain 70 million views, and his 2020 by itself has seen 5 of his songs chart the top 100 in the UK, with I Don't Know peaking at number 7. So achieving all of this is done off his own back and not down to his sister. But in June of 2020, Dutchavelli would see himself wanted by police after he was saying that he was going to attend a Black Lives Matter protest, and then of course they dropped that, and I have covered that situation in videos before, so I will leave those linked down in the description if you want to go check those out. Which leads us to September 2020, and I just want to congratulate Dutch on his rated awards. They were well deserved, and if you don't know, he won Track of the Year, that being I Don't Know, and won Breakthrough of the Year, again well deserved. Moving forward, I project that Dutchavelli will be a leading force in the UK rap scene, and as long as he keeps pushing out out quality music with securing those features that everybody wants to see, it should be looking as if Dutchavelli is going to be keeping his golden touch for the foreseeable future. When we're talking American collaborations, he should definitely shout Big Sean for that feature, maybe him and Steph link up with Sean to get something cooking. Working with Steph on a tape or a collaboration will definitely push Dutch across seas also, maybe even bridging that gap that's missing between the UK drill and rap scenes and the US drill and rap scenes. But if you like this series so far, give the video a thumbs up, let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy Huncho, and I'm out.